Tonight on News 22.
President Trump threatens to close the southern border.
Beto O'Rourke kicks off his presidential campaign.
And find out why your brain is wired to eat more junk food.
That and more on News 22 Tuesday.
Serving southern New Mexico, this is the award-winning KRWG-TV News 22, where news matters.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Diana Castillo.
And I'm Stephanie Mendez. Customs and Border Protection officers are overwhelmed.
They are releasing hundreds of migrants onto the streets after they're processed. It's the latest response to an increase of migrants crossing the border and the overcrowding in government facilities. The migrants are given a notice to appear in court at a later date. Then they are released, causing overcrowding at the local shelters. Many say they come for reasons including poverty and violence. We now know the cause of death for an 8-year-old boy from Guatemala. Felipe Gomez Alonso died on Christmas Eve. It's been announced that he died from a virus and bacterial infection. He was healthy when he left Guatemala with his father, but soon fell ill after he arrived in the U.S. and was determined by Border Customs. He is the second reported child of a migrant to die in the month of December. The first was a 7-year-old girl from Guatemala who also died of a bacterial infection.
The Trump administration is focused on the southern border and the president's threats to close it. On Monday, the Homeland Security added officers to deal with an influx of migrants crossing from Mexico.
And a source says the White House is considering appointing a border or immigration czar. CNN's Pamela Brown reports.
President Trump tonight not backing away from threats to close the U.S. border with Mexico as soon as this week, tweeting, "We have a major national emergency at our border. Get it done now." Administration officials warned that the ultimatum he launched last week,
"We'll keep it closed for a long time. I'm not playing games,"
is serious.
It certainly isn't a bluff. You can take the president seriously, and here's why. You're giving those metrics. What he's looking at is that 4,000 migrants apprehended in one day recently. We're on track this month for close to 100,000. We have never seen a surge like this.
Acting Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney telling ABC News that something dramatic would need to happen to change the president's mind.
We need the people from the ports of entry to go out and patrol in the desert where we don't have any wall. We hate to say we told you so, but we told you so. We need border security, and we're going to do the best we can with what we have.
The threats follow the highest month of undocumented migrant crossings in 11 years, according to Customs and Border Protection. Still, Acting Secretary of Defense Patrick Shanahan said that as of late Monday morning, the Pentagon had not yet been asked to support closing the border.
It's a very dynamic and fluid situation. I'll be having conversations with Secretary of State today and most likely Secretary Nielsen.
Aides also defending the president's decision to discontinue aid to Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador for not doing more to help stem the flow of migrants.
We need the Northern Triangle countries to do more about not allowing their people into Mexico. They can help us. We need them to do that. If not, it makes very little sense for us to continue to send them aid.
President Trump also keeping up pressure on House Democrats to end their investigations into Russian meddling now that Special Counsel Robert Mueller declined to recommend criminal charges against the president, tweeting, quote, "No matter what information is given to the crazed Democrats from the no collusion Mueller report, it will never be good enough. Behind closed doors, the Dems are laughing."
We really do think enough is enough, and it's time to move on to other things.
Acting White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney defending Trump after Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff said Trump campaign associates' interactions with Russians were unethical.
I think the voters are going to decide about the ethics and morality of the people they vote for on either side. People liked Bill Clinton, even though they might not have thought he was that ethical. That's not the job of the House Intelligence Committee. It's not the job of the House Judiciary Committee. It's not the job of the House Oversight Committee. They're supposed to review the functioning of government. Voters make decisions about the candidates.
Sources familiar with the discussion say top White House officials and President Trump are considering creating the immigration czar to help oversee the administration's efforts to contain and manage a surge in migrants crossing the southern border.
President Trump wants to move Customs and Border Protection officers away from the legal ports of entry. He plans to move the officers to other areas of the border to stem the flow of migrants. Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen says the reassignment of 750 officers will help secure the borders. The relocation is causing residents, leaders, and businesses to fear the move could actually harm security, with the ports being understaffed. This plan will move officers away from ports in the San Diego, Tucson, El Paso, and the Laredo regions.
The weather has been really on and off lately, but today has been a nice day.
It's been cold, it's been warm, but I'm liking this weather. Amanda Adama is next with the first look at weather.
That's right, it has been a little bit on and off lately, but it's still looking good. Taking a look at our current conditions right now, sunny skies at 75 degrees. If you don't like this weather, I don't know what to tell you. I don't think it gets much better than this. Some winds coming in from the southwest at 15 miles an hour, humidity at 12%, dew point at 23. Our barometer sits at 29.85 inches. Today's high was 80 degrees, well above our average of 75. Tonight's low at 49. In the year 2011, we saw a high of 88, which is much higher than what we saw today in 2016, a record low of 27. We didn't see any rain today, so our yearly rainfall sits at 0.63 inches. That's all I have for your local conditions. I'll be back later, but for now, more news.
Beto O'Rourke is officially on the campaign trail. He kicked off his first rally on Saturday. He visited El Paso, Austin, and Houston all in the same day.
Alyssa Diaz is here with a look at the rally and the people who were there.
It was an announcement everyone knew was coming, and a big crowd was excited to hear it.
The eyes of the nation were on El Paso early Saturday morning. Thousands crowded into downtown to show their support for the El Paso native.
He's just a wonderful, fantastic human being.
Flags and signs waving high. Just a few blocks from the border.
He understands what it's like to be from a border town.
Feel a lot more excited.
It's all about community, it's all about love, it's all about hope.
Human aspect to him that is missing in our politics.
Once Beto took the stage, he touched on the major issues of the day: universal health care, climate change, and gerrymandering.
They were called to contribute to our shared success and to this country's greatness, and they have.
Immigration.
Human beings struggling.
Let's pay our teachers what they are worth.
Education.
I mean, I'm an educator, I'm a teacher, so everything that he said about K through 12, school, universal, pre-K, I like that stuff.
I'm a education major, and he talks a lot about how teachers deserve equal pay and how educators are important to, America.
Unrestrained money and influence has warped the priorities of this country.
And corruption.
I think it's time to end big money.
Supporters say they are eager.
So encouraged and inspired by everything that he was saying.
And they say Beto is the one to lead the way.
An estimated 6,000 people attended the rally. The El Paso Republican Party also held their own counter-protest. Reporting live in the studio, Alyssa Diaz, News 22.
While Beto's running for president, New Mexico's Representative Ben Ray Lujan is running for the U.S. Senate. He announced his candidacy on Twitter on Monday. Lujan represents northern New Mexico and the House of Representatives. He declared for the Senate when Senator Tom Udall decided not to run for re-election in 2020. He says his main issues are health care costs and environmental protection.
New Mexico's unemployment rate is higher than the national average. The unemployment rate in February was 5.1% compared to the national average of 3.8%. New Mexico Department of Workforce Solutions says the state's economy is driven by the national economy. When the national average is up, New Mexico's should increase as well. New Mexico is set to officially increase their minimum wage. Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham signed legislation to increase the current minimum wage from $7.50 an hour to $12 by 2023. The first increase to $9 an hour will go into effect next year. Tipped workers will see an increase of $2.13 an hour to $3 an hour by 2023. Stay tuned, Amanda Adame will be next with your national forecast.
But first, find out what NMSU is doing for Sexual Awareness Week. More on that when News 22 continues.
Welcome back. You're watching News 22 Tuesday,
where news matters.
April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month,
and NMSU is taking the pledge to bring awareness to sexual assault.
Just read your scripts, guys.
The pledge urges the NMSU community to identify situations in which sexual assault may occur, intervene in situations where consent is not given, and create an environment in which assault is unacceptable.
Part of what we need to do is really just recognize that there's a problem and make sure we're taking appropriate steps to address it. The student body here are the individuals who really have to be aware of it and know what to do to prevent it.
The student government of NMSU will be having more events for Sexual Assault Awareness Month. A California agricultural business has a new product it wants you to try.
It's a variety of cauliflower they're calling cannellini. They're the same folks that brought us broccolini a few years ago. David Louie has the details.
Rick Harris couldn't be happier after putting 2 years into developing a new variety of cauliflower called cannellini.
If you look at it, it's not perfect. It's not in the head form. It's sort of ugly, but when you floret it up, and you taste the flavor, the sweetness, it's like, oh my God, what is this stuff? It is so unique.
A variety of cauliflower for people who might not like cauliflower. Harris says he focused on improving its taste, experimenting initially with 12 different seeds.
As the sun hits the curd here, the top of the head, it enhances the greenness. And when we enhance the greenness, we enhance the flavor.
It gets sweeter?
It gets sweeter.
You can find a similar cauliflower at Asian grocery stores and farmers markets, but this one has been developed for the mass market for all year availability.
Does it taste like cauliflower?
No.
No, it doesn't. See, that's the whole thing. So it's not a cauliflower, it's a cannellini.
Chefs, including Robert DeSala at the Table in San Jose's Willow Glen neighborhood, have been testing it on diners as they try different recipes.
Because it is so delicate, it's not like you're eating like a head of cauliflower. The fact that we do pair it with some other spices and some other ingredients to not only amplify but complement it as well.
Home chefs will find that cannellini can be served raw, sautéed, roasted, or even stir-fried.
There are so many different ways to work with it. Because chefs are already doing that, I think that consumers are going to catch on pretty quickly.
If you ever found yourself staring at an empty bag of cookies you just devoured, you are not alone.
Your brain is wired to eat that cookie and the next 10. Reed Binion explains why in today's Health Minute.
Bet you can't eat just one. We've all heard the saying and at some point accepted the challenge and failed miserably. But don't beat yourself up. According to Daria Long-Gillespie, sugar, salt, and fat bypass our normal fullness mechanisms, which is why you can eat all those delicious cookies and savory chips without really feeling stuffed. And food manufacturers spend millions trying to find the perfect sugar-salt-fat ratio to keep you wanting more. So if you want to cut those cravings, here are a few tips. Number 1, reduce the hidden sugars in your diet. Best way to do that is to read the first 5 items in the ingredients list to see if there's any added sugars or sucrose. Number 2, embrace new flavors like sour, bitter, and umami. You'll notice salty cravings will start to diminish. And number 3, maintain portion control. Instead of eating those chips right out of the bag, portion your snacks to resist overeating. For today's Health Minute, I'm Reed Binion.
You might see some people wearing blue today to support National Autism Awareness Day. The Center for Disease Control says 1 in 59 children are diagnosed with the autism spectrum disorder. That accounts for 1 in 37 boys and 1 in 151 girls. People with autism sometimes have other conditions, including sleep disturbance, seizures, and gastrointestinal problems. There is no medical detection for autism, but for parents, paying attention to development milestones is key. So since we're kind of getting good weather, I wonder what the rest of the country is looking like.
I do too, and Amanda's next with the national forecast.
That's right, we are getting that spring weather, and so is much of the country, as you'll see here in my first map. These warmer lows: 56 in El Paso, 57 in Phoenix, 56 in Los Angeles, and 47 in Lubbock. As you'll see here in my next map, the rest of the country, how it's going to be looking tomorrow. Here we go. 79 in El Paso, another perfect day for us. 69 in Los Angeles, pretty nice there as well, and 61 in San Francisco. But as you'll see right here in this Dallas area going up into Oklahoma and northern Texas, you'll see some storms that I'll be talking about here in my next map. This windy warm front that is making its way into San Antonio and Oklahoma and northern Texas, that will bring those thunderstorms. We won't be seeing any rain, we'll just be seeing that wind, but hey, maybe that's not such a bad thing. I'll be right back. I'll be here right after the break to talk your local conditions.
Hi, I'm Nora Show, Program Manager for KRWG. As part of National Poetry Month this April, KRWG has a poetic special in store for you. A Place to Stand tells the amazing story of how Jimmy Santiago Baca became a celebrated poet, novelist, and screenwriter. This special takes viewers into Jimmy's past and present to uncover how the power of the written word lifted him from the violence and pain that had defined his early life. Tune in Sunday, April 28th at 5 p.m. for A Place to Stand.
Nature presents American Spring Live, a real-time adventure into the season that kicks off an exciting new year in the natural world. We'll join scientists as they make discoveries about how longer days and warming temperatures trigger big changes in animals and plants. From Yosemite to the Everglades, spring is coming to you, live on PBS.
Welcome back. Let's go ahead and take a look at our current conditions across New Mexico. 61 in Farmington, a bit cooler, 55 in Santa Fe, 70 in Clovis, Ruidoso 61, a bit cooler, Roswell 77, and Deming you're looking at 74. Into tomorrow's temperatures: 61 in Farmington, a cool 71 in Socorro, 54 in Santa Fe, 73 in Clovis, 81 in Roswell. So you're seeing the highest temperatures in New Mexico, 77 here in Las Cruces, and 74 in Deming. Alamogordo, 57 for your low tonight. Tomorrow, partly cloudy skies with 74 as your high. TRC, you're looking at 57. Clear skies tonight for your low, 76 tomorrow for your high. And I don't think we're looking at chemical fire, but looking at the rest of the neighboring cities in Las Cruces, in New Mexico. Silver City, you're looking at clear skies with 46, partly sunny skies at 64 for your high. Las Cruces, we're looking at 59 tonight for our low, and sunny skies a bit warmer at 77. I'll be back later to talk your 5-day, but for now, more news.
One person is dead and several had to be airlifted after a chemical plant explosion near Houston this morning.
And here is Fiona St. Pierre with today's Southwest Minute.
The explosion in Harris County follows a chemical fire just weeks earlier in nearby Deer Park. Plant workers were crawling under fences to get away, and residents reported their homes shaking and seeing smoke rising into the air. Firefighters are working to control the blaze, and a shelter in place has been issued. 20 people are injured after chaos erupted at a visual for slain rapper Nipsey Hussle. Hundreds gathered to pay tribute to him at his clothing store in South Los Angeles. One person was hit by a vehicle and several were trampled. Some reports say the panic was due to shots fired, but the police say there is no evidence of that. And in Porterville, California, authorities are searching for the masked man who tried to rob a convenience store Friday night. The clerk took the gun from the robber and chased him out of the store. No one was injured. Deputies are asking the public to contact the sheriff's office with any information. I'm Fiona St. Pierre, Southwest Minute.
I heard a former Aggie is now going to play for the NBA.
How cool. NMSU showing some light. Christian Machetta will be next with sports.
Thanks, Diana and Stephanie. Coming up in sports, find out which NMSU player got invited to the Pro Hoops Combine. We'll be right back with News 22 Sports.
Morning Edition, weekdays from 5 to 9 on 90.7 FM and streaming live on KRWG.org.
On Secrets of the Dead, a moment of chaos in ancient Egypt.
The government was losing control.
But were they victims of something far bigger?
If anything goes wrong with the Nile, it would be famine and chaos.
Egypt's darkest hour on Secrets of the Dead.
Wednesday at 9 p.m. on KRWG-Public Media.
Think Wednesday on PBS for stories from the world around us. Stories of hunters and prey.
Mice arouse the killer instinct in any cat.
Ancient discoveries.
No two are demonstrably the same.
And Egypt's darkest hour.
The government was losing control.
For stories that get you closer to life. Think Wednesday
on KRWG-Public Media.
This is KRWG-TV News 22 Sports.
Welcome back. It's time to kick it with Kristen. A standout NMSU women's basketball player will be going to the Pro Hoops Combine in Tampa, Florida on Saturday. Brooke Salas received an invitation to the Combine, which is only given to top college seniors. Salas will be looked at by the WNBA, foreign coaches, and general managers. She was the first player in the WAC to win both Player of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year honors in the same season. Salas finished her college career as New Mexico State's second all-time leading scorer with 1,931 points. Former Aggie Jamario Jones is now a Los Angeles Laker. After a strong G League season with the Lakers affiliate, the South Bay Lakers, Jones was offered a spot on the NBA team. Jones averaged 9.4 points per game and 9.6 rebounds per game this past season. And his senior year as an Aggie, he was named WAC Player of the Year and was the WAC Tournament MVP. The NMSU softball team is currently facing off in a doubleheader against their rivals, the UNM Lobos. In the first game, they defeated the Lobos 8-0. The Aggies are 16-14 overall this season, while the Lobos are 10-25 overall. Earlier in the season, NMSU defeated UNM 9-8 in the New Mexico State Invitational. We will have the final scores for the second game in our newscast tomorrow. The NMSU baseball team is back home after shutting out Chicago State in the 3-game series finale on Sunday. The Aggies defeated the Cougars 12-0 to close out the weekend. The first game of the series was on Friday, and the Aggies took the first win, while the Cougars took the second on Saturday. The next game for NMSU will be on Friday at home at 6:05 p.m. against Grand Canyon. Louis Menard is the WAC Singles Player of the Week. This is Menard's second weekly honor this season and his fourth weekly honor since starting at New Mexico State. His current record is 21-10 overall in singles play and was the first Aggie to reach 20 wins this past weekend. New Mexico State's next match will be on Tuesday, April 9th against the New Mexico State Military Institute. And that's all for sports tonight. Thank you for joining us. Still ahead on News 22, Amanda will be back to take a look at your 5-day forecast. But first, find out why this streaming service is raising its rates once again. More on that when News 22 returns.
Coming up on Austin City Limits.
Saturday at 9 p.m.
This week on Central Texas Gardener, Susan Morrison, a California designer and author of The Less is More Garden, rounds up big ideas for small yards. On tour in Georgetown, a modern cottage-style design attracts wildlife and stock takes keep the kitchen loaded. Daphne answers your top question and John has your backyard basics tip. So let's get growing.
Saturday at 2 p.m. on KRWG Public
Let's take a look at our top stories. President Trump has threatened to close the southern borders and is not backing out. Homeland Security Secretary added officers to deal with migrants crossing from Mexico. Beto O'Rourke kicked off his presidential campaign in his hometown after visiting El Paso early Monday. He then went to Houston and Austin that same day. And we found how our brain is wired to continue eating junk food and got a few tips on how to cut those cravings.
You may need to make more room in the budget for your streaming services. Netflix plans to raise rates again. The streaming service will increase plans in the U.S. by $1 to $2 over the next billing cycle. Netflix says the increased revenue will help it add more television and shows and movies. The company has been investing heavily in original content. It budgeted $8 billion for new shows and movies in 2018.
I say those few dollars are worth it.
They are, for sure.
Netflix is getting a lot better these days.
It is. So, Amanda, tell us what the next 5 days are looking like.
Well, the next 5 days are going to continue to be very spring-like, 77 for our Wednesday, and then we're going to keep it up in the upper 70s the whole rest of the week. So it's going to be spring-like weather.
Sounds good. I choose this weather over any other weather.
Yes, it's really enjoyable.
It's great. Well, and don't forget, you can catch all of today's aired stories and past newscasts on our YouTube page at youtube.com/KRWG News 22.
And follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat for show updates and the latest on what the News 22 team is up to. And that's all for News 22 Tuesday. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight.
Tune in tomorrow for more news from across the Southwest. I'm Stephanie Mendez.
I'm Diana Castillo.
And I'm Amanda Dame. Good night.
Good night.
Now serving at the American Wood Shop.
It's a party and you're invited.
This is a show all about how to take pallet wood and build either a portable bar or
a beautiful love seat.
It's easy to do. Just watch the show.
Saturday morning at 8:30.
On Cool the Midwife.
You said this illness runs in families. Could I have given this to my children?
I've been chosen to run for election. Congratulations, Mrs. Buckle.
It's politics, Vi.
If I didn't know better, I'd be thinking that you weren't behind me.
Sunday at 7 p.m.
When I heard that the love of my life, my partner, had Alzheimer's, it took me by such surprise.
We know that 2/3 of caregivers are women.
She's not who she was, and I try to do everything I can to try to make her who she was, and it doesn't work.
I'm Dr. Peter Salgo. Join us this week for Second Opinion.
Sunday at 1:30 p.m.
News for Southern New Mexico and West Texas. Noticias 22.
Bienvenidos a este breve informativo de Noticias 22. Los saluda Francisco Soto.
El presidente de los Estados Unidos, Donald Trump, dice que cerrará fronteras internacionales al sur del país si México no hace intento al disminuir la migración de Centroamérica o si el Congreso de los Estados Unidos no llega a un acuerdo para la construcción del muro. Al momento siguen llegando migrantes del Centroamérica para pedir